Animals communicate with us all the time. And I would do what I now know to be shamanic ceremonies with the animals and with rocks and water. So I realized now that I was practicing shamanism, and only as an adult did I seek out actual teachers. And when I was very, very young, literally in my crib, I have very strong memories of I know now to be a shaman coming to visit with me and taking me energetically away and teaching me things like journeying and shapeshifting, and having no point of reference and nothing to compare it to. I assumed this was quite ordinary. And only in my, I'll say, teenage years and young adult years did I find out that this isn't quite as ordinary as one would think. And it affected me to the point where I remember not needing a physical body, realizing the physical body is so much less important than the energy body, if you want to call it that. And I used to, my bedroom was on the third floor of the house we lived in, and I'd rock on my hands and knees, and I would try to get my crib to roll across the old wooden floor, and I'd climb on the windowsill to try to jump out. And my mom finally realized that this was a daily thing, and so she would bring the crib across the room and tie it to the heater grate so that would not happen. And that, I realize now, I was mimicking the shamanic journeying I had been doing with this man. And then many years later, I was at, I guess it was like a seminar, a weekend retreat. And people were, we had guests, and some were shamans, some were energy healers. We had all kinds of people there. And they gave us open time to just work with each other and do whatever we wanted. And one of the shamans took a translator aside, and he pointed to me and he said, ask her how she knows those things, because they're secret teachings. So when I explained how I had learned them, he urged me to seek out some physical plane teachers to learn about them with the right vocabulary and a way that I could offer those services. So that's the shamanic piece. So I've studied shamanism ever since, and the other things just all made sense.
It just kind of all fell under one umbrella.
Yeah, like teaching meditation and intuitive development just unfolded into doing hypnosis work. And hypnosis work just was very inviting to do past life regression work. And so they're all related, sound and color and stones and energy work. So it's just more tools in the toolbox to offer people and more things to discover.
Well, I see where you are a retired teacher of nearly 40 years.
I was an art teacher in the public schools of West Hartford. So I taught for 37 years, and then I did long-term subbing for 7 or 8 years. And I was really lucky that teaching art was very akin to how I live my life, full of discovery and newness and being a lifelong learner. And I was able to have the private practice that I have now, part-time, as I did then, while I was still teaching full-time. So I was pretty blessed in a couple different ways.
Well, you did quite well, according to this. It says you were the 2012 Connecticut Teacher of the Year finalist, 2011 to 2012 West Hartford Teacher of the Year, 2011 Local Hero of Ronald McDonald House Charities, 2010 Connecticut Association of Schools Middle School Teacher of the Year finalist, and 2009 Connecticut Art Education Outstanding Middle Level Art Educator. So you didn't just dabble.
Thank you. I tried not to slack off, and I was really blessed. Once in a while, you feel like you have the right school district, excuse me, the right colleagues, the right administrators, the right kids, the right parents, the right environment. And I was blessed by all of that. And I was allowed to thrive. And I think I was no different than anyone else. I was just perhaps given some honors that could have been bestowed upon anyone, and they're meaningful. I don't want to minimize them. And it's always nice to have someone say that you're doing a good job at what you love doing. So, but thank you.
Yeah, I read on your, it's talked about you working with the Cheyenne, on the Cheyenne Reservation, was it?
Yeah, I'm on the board of directors and a volunteer for an organization that is actually centered in Glastonbury, Connecticut, called hawkwing.org. And we go out to the Cheyenne River Reservation out in South Dakota as a volunteer group. I'm on both the medical team, and my husband comes out with the helping hands, and we do construction work. And as I said, I'm also on the board, and we didn't go because of COVID. We haven't been in 2 years, but we're still in touch. We still do a lot of fundraising. And Rochelle Ripley is our founder and president, and she was recognized as a CNN one of the top 10 heroes in 2015, which brought some recognition to our group and gave us a lot more support, because many people didn't know what we did because we're so far away from the reservation.
Yeah.
So
Are you native?
I'm part Cree on my dad's side. But this is the Lakota reservation.
Yeah.
So I have had some of the elders over the years take me under their wing. So I actually know more about Lakota teachings than Cree teachings. But most Native practices and beliefs are quite similar.
Now, is your husband involved in your spiritual work?
Well, we've only been married 3 years, so most of what you hear about I've done as a completely single person with no children. And he comes out to the reservation. He's a retired electrician, so he comes out to the reservation and helps. They built a youth center and they fix up some of the elders' homes and things like that. And he has not followed the practices that I follow, but he is exploring them and very supportive. And if I need a fire for a fire ceremony, he's happy to chop wood and build it. And when I have my workshops here, you'll see that I'm in my work studio. He's very supportive. So he helps me organize things and has a very open heart and an open mind. So I'm really grateful for that.
Now, you mentioned you go back to when you were a crib. I can't imagine going back that far. That's a little beyond me, but I think that's fantastic when you can believe you can remember that. Do any of your other family members, have they had any experiences?
My mom has not shamanic experiences, but contact with people from spirit and intuitive hits on things. And after my dad had passed, they had been married 43 years. She lives in Rhode Island, by the way. And she called me one day with this very frantic voice, not like an emergency, but just excited. She goes, "That's it. I'm never going to ever doubt anything you ever tell me about spiritual things again." And I said, "Mom, what are you talking about?" She says, "Well, I was sitting watching TV, and you know how the screen goes black before a commercial comes on just for a second?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Clear as a bell, I heard your father's voice." And I said, "Really?" And I'm thinking he must have said something so romantic. I said, "What did he say?" "Helen, go get an oil change." And so she said, I ignored it. And the commercial went by and another one came on, but the screen went black for a second. And I point out about the screen going black. My mom's an auditory person. She played the violin for many, many years. When a screen goes black or some stimuli changes, that is when sometimes messages from spirit happen, that little in-between moment. So she said, I ignored it because I thought I was crazy. And then the screen went black again. And I won't use the exact words my dad used because some of it is a little crass, but he said, "Something, damn it. I said, go get an oil change." Now, he would never have spoken to my mom that way, but he was being so emphatic. She said, I grabbed my purse, I grabbed my keys, I didn't even turn the TV off. And she drove to the dealer on Route 95, going speed limit on a highway. And when she gets there, she says, I need an oil change. And they said, Mrs. St. Germaine, you do not need one. You just had one. She said, I'm not leaving till I get an oil change. So hours later, they call her in the back room. She says, I walk by a big sign that says you're not allowed back here because of insurance.
Yeah.
And they have the hood of her car up, and everyone who's working there is taking pictures underneath the hood of her car. There was a big squirrel's nest with live squirrels in it who had run away when they opened the hood. But they had chewed through 3 of the main wires. They had taken all the insulation out, and the manager said that car was going to be going up in flames miles down the road. And he said, not a lot of miles. So she said, your dad saved my life. And I said, I think he did. So that's the most profound experience a family member has had. And my siblings are all deceased now, and none of them have ever spoken of any experiences or even took an interest in these kinds of things. But I think my mom sort of carries that.
Yeah. Okay, that is incredible. Oh my gosh.
Funny story.
Yeah. So your siblings knew what you did. Was there ever any comment about it?
No, my sister thought it was a little odd and, a little strange, but she appreciated the fact that I was respected for doing it. So she figures, well, she must know what she's doing. I don't want any part of it, but let her do it. And my brother was only 14 when he died, so there really wasn't too much talk about that. Yeah, he died suddenly. He was struck by a car.
Oh dear.
But he has visited with myself and my mom.
Wow, that's a shame.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get a hold of. It's hard to take in.
Yeah, especially for my parents, especially my mom, who's 91. But she finds comfort in the fact that she gets visitations, just comforting little dreams and things from my father and my sister and my brother.
I think it's wonderful that I don't know what people do that don't have this belief system.
I think they suffer more. Yeah, it's hard.
We've had several people in our church who have lost children, and they don't know what they'd have done without like I say, the belief. It's
unimaginable heartbreak.
I know. Yeah. It's incredible. So I think it says here someplace that you have worked with the police department.
I have, sometimes local, sometimes police from different parts of the country. And it usually takes one detective to know another detective. They don't look up or Google who does this kind of work.
Yeah.
They do not do that. It is all highly confidential because they would receive a lot of criticism from the public, and I've never charged for my work, and I couldn't. And I don't think they could ever accept, to pay a fee or anything like that, because that would evoke a lot of criticism. But the first case that I worked on, we actually were able to help the police track a murderer, and they were able to solve the problem. Now, way back a long time ago, what I used to do, and I'm going back, at least 20, 25 years, I used to put a colleague under hypnosis. That was a really good subject they could go under very deeply and be very emotionally detached. And we would ask for spirits to use their vocal cords. It's a much more common technique than people realize. It sounds very seance-y and weird, and it really isn't like that. Or sometimes they would just be able to deepen their own connection to spirit, to be able to receive messages. That happened more often, that people would just have that sort of barrier between the physical reality and the spiritual. And they would get information, and I would record everything. And in forensic hypnosis, you must do it a certain way. You can't ask questions a certain way. It has
Oh.
to be very neutral. And then I said, and it was the parent of the person who was murdered that had asked me to do this. So she sent the police, at the time we were using cassette tapes, that's how long ago it was. And there was information that we got that no one would know except the killer, or maybe someone who examined the scene, like the police. And they always withhold information from the
Right.
public. And I was very naive. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So then they told the mom, well, this actually is helpful. Can you ask these specific questions? Well, eventually we came up with a conversation that the person who had been murdered had had with his soon to have been future mother-in-law, word for word. I said this, she said that, because we were talking to the man who had been murdered. And he had told me what kind of gun had shot him, what part of the body, where he was standing, and it all proved to be accurate. So the police were, and he was heartbroken to find out that this future mother-in-law had been involved in his murder. He had no idea that it had anything to do with his fiance or her mother.
Oh my gosh.
And our main goal is to make sure that the person has found their way to the light and is at peace. That is the main goal. If they want to share information that could be helpful, fine. If they don't want to, that's okay. So we made sure he was in a place of safety. And we work with St. Michael, the Archangel, on that. He told us who had shot him. It was a hitman. He didn't know his name. But I said, well, from where you are, you have access to all this information. You could actually just retrieve his name. You have access to everything. He goes, well, it's going to sound silly. I said, why? He said, because it's Mickey Mouse. And I thought, okay, there goes my credibility to go to the police and say Mickey Mouse was the hitman. Well, a few weeks later, I get a newspaper article, could have been a few months, it's a long time ago, and it says that this man was indicted for the hit, for murdering, and his alias was Mickey the Mouse. So once that word got around, then I was getting calls from other police departments, and I no longer use a colleague under hypnosis. I just make the connection myself.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll ask me to look at autopsy photos or bring me out to the murder scene. And I have to promise them, I have to say to them, I cannot promise that I can help you solve this. All I can promise is that I'll do my best, and that I'll be an open channel, and that I need to make sure that this person is at rest. And sometimes it gets really messy, Lynn. Sometimes when I say to the person who's passed, your family needs to know what's happened to you, because they don't know that you've passed, because they don't know who you are. Your identity is unknown. They might want to give you a burial, or, just have a beautiful ceremony. I said, the police will help me. And I get chills when I remember this woman said, the police are involved.
Oh my.
I said, in your death, your murder? And she said, yes. And she said, I don't want my family members to know, because if they start investigating or asking questions, they'll be murdered too.
Oh my
So that's
gosh.
when you have to be very delicate in talking to the police.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
working on one case now that's been a long running case, and it's frustrating and disheartening that I just can't seem. I can see the scene, I can see the hand holding the gun, and I just can't get any closer. I've gotten enough information that they know that I've connected, just can't solve it. And you have to let go of the ego saying, I really want to.
Right.
It's my control.
Wow.
Sometimes
could it be that at the time that the person didn't see the person's face?
Well, it's what I do is I try to either look through the eyes of that person or observe the whole scene.
Okay.
So I should normally be able to step back enough to see the hand, the arm, the person.
Right.
I could see the back of his head. I could describe the hair, the length, the texture, his build, all that. But sometimes there's a karmic thing happening. And I once had an elderly couple who were murdered tell me that they don't need it brought to social justice or police justice. I said, what do you mean? And they told me that in another lifetime, they had done a similar thing to this person, and they were very content that this was bringing things back into balance. what can you say to that? You have to honor
Mm.
that and just
Oh,
make sure that
sure.
they're okay.
But how do you pass that on to the police?
That's exactly what I tell them. I say, this is what they have said. They have told me that they're at peace. They have told me that there are some karmic reasons and a much bigger picture than we would ever have be privy to and ever have knowledge of. And I have to honor that. And no matter how hard I try, I won't be getting any other information. This is what they've told me. And I really do respect and trust and honor that.
Mhm. Then what is the police response?
Usually it's disappointment,
Mm.
but no one has ever said, oh, you're a hoax or this stuff
Uh,
never works out. We'll never call anybody like this again. They usually say, we understand, because I have found that every detective who's contacted me has been so compassionate.
really?
Yep. One of them
That's-
even said every time we have a family holiday at dinner, we say a prayer for this young girl. They believe she was maybe late teens, early 20s, and we welcome her into our family at every holiday because we know her family's missing her. I mean, that's
Oh
pretty
my
much,
gosh. I got goosebumps with that.
yeah. So
Oh, that's oh
so
my
it's an
gosh. That,
honor to work with people like that.
Oh, good grief. Have you ever considered writing a book?
I am laughing because I was told that I need to write a book about 25 years ago, and then again about 20 years ago, and I was told that's why I needed to retire and I need to write a series of books. And I have books in my head. Nothing has happened yet. I think I'm too right-brained to organize myself enough to have that happen. But since I retired from teaching art, I've become a yoga teacher, and I do a lot of shamanic yoga, and I lead international retreats where I get to combine yoga and shamanism and intuitive development and all kinds of fun and wonderful things in Belize and Costa Rica, and I've taught in Italy. So that's been a happy distraction.
Make a wonderful TV series.
Well, thank you. I've actually been hosting and producing a TV show for about 25 years. So I do sometimes share some stories, but it'd be fun to have someone else do all the organizing and the work that my abstract right brain can't grasp.
Let me see. There's my computer's doing things here. I just lost you. Are you there?
I'm still here.
You're still here. Okay, let me get you back. Oh, I swear, my next life, I'm gonna know more about computers.
Maybe we won't need to. It'll all
Well,
be
that's
thought process.
day. I like
It'll be
that.
nice.
Yeah.
No technology, just
Mhm.
telepathic communication.
Now, what is shamanic yoga?
What I do is I focus on what the Mayan, because I was blessed enough to be invited to go and study one-on-one in the Mayan jungle, part of one summer, to learn, to deepen my practice and learn more about Mayan teachings. There's a special calling to me. So I find out what the Mayan calendar says about that day. There's a symbol and a number, and how they line up on any given day talks about what energies and properties are at work. We might do ceremony that has to do with the moon. So I will usually bring in readings and teachings from different aspects and different paths of shamanism. I might choose poses or asanas, as we call them, that support different particular animals that are prevalent that day. At the end, we might do an actual ceremony. So it's yoga, but there's a little bit of a shamanic twist to it. And I also do energy medicine yoga, where we bring in some of the practices that have to do with Chinese medicine.
That's fantastic. That sounds wonderful.
Well,
I think there's so much about shamanism that isn't known. I mean, when you think of shamanism, you think of an Indian shaman who works with the spirits. Anyway, that's as much as I know about shamanism. I know there's more to it than that.
Okay, I can actually simplify.
Oh, I would. That would be great.
Shamanism is an understanding and a belief and a practice that everything resonates with energy, and it's the same energy that runs through all things and connects all things, and we all live in partnership with everything else, with the elements and the plants and the animals and the minerals and the ancestors and the descendants, because time is not linear.
Right.
It kind of exists in a little bit of a spiral. And working and honoring, asking for the wisdom of animals. And we go into a place that we call non-ordinary reality. Instead of actually calling it a place, it's a level of consciousness, and we would access it by going into theta brainwaves, which are using a drum or rattle at approximately 4 beats a second, and it guides you into theta, which is where your brainwaves would be if you're dreaming or being really creative, even daydreaming, where there's no limits to the experiences you can have. And we consider 3 realms: the lower worlds, the middle worlds, the upper worlds. And it's not a hierarchy, it's just a different place where you would meet different helping spirits and do different types of work. And it's such an easy path to follow, because it's just how you live your life. It doesn't contradict or contraindicate any other religion or practice or belief. It's just like yoga, it's a practice, it's not a religion. And it's it just brings a lot of joy to my life, and it's very natural for me. It wasn't something that I had to overcome an awkwardness to. This speaks to me, and it's quite comfortable. And every culture has shamans.
Now, have you always been interested in that?
I have, yeah, without even knowing what it was called in my younger years. But yeah, always.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Imagine what you were in a previous life, or have you found that out too?
I've done a lot of regression work, and I have found many lifetimes that I did what we call medicine work or shamanic work. And what's fascinating is in many of those lifetimes, I was in a culture that you could not get married and have a family. You were either chosen or directed to be the shaman for the group, the tribe, the clan, whatever you want to call it. And that was your 24-hour a day for your entire life work. They fed you and clothed you and sheltered you, but your job was to make sure there were no droughts and no floods and no famines and no disease by appealing to the spirits and trying to make things right. And way back, thousands of years ago, and maybe even hundreds of years ago, if that wasn't the outcome, you would either be banished or put to death. And we know that shamanism goes back 60,000 years by seeing cave paintings and pictures of ceremonies all around the world, but we think it goes back 100,000 years.
Really?
That's pretty remarkable if you think about it.
Guess so. That's incredible. That, yeah, there's nothing is new. It's all been here before. And like you say, we are all connected. I mean, energy is energy, and it makes up the entire universe. So everybody and everything is connected in some way or another.
Yeah.
So
And we say, I'm sorry, we say when one celebrates, we all celebrate. When one suffers, we all suffer. So what I try to tell people is to remind yourself of that connection. If you were to see or hear or sense of something, of someone else's suffering, whether it's a part of the earth or animals or a vulnerable population or a group of people or a single person, the very first thing you should do is just offer your gratitude to the universe for reminding you that you're connected, and then ask for blessings or prayers for them. And then what can you do? How can you turn that empathy into compassionate action? Can you donate? Can you volunteer? Can you change your way of living to ease someone else's? What can you do? Because people talk a lot about empathy. Empathy is only a stepping stone to compassionate action. Because if you're just feeling what someone else is feeling, you might actually be duplicating suffering without easing any of it. And you might be making yourself less able to be helpful.
Right.
So it's a stepping stone, and just remembering that beautiful connection we all have. It's pretty helpful.
Mhm. Now talk to me about the journey within.
Okay, the journeying, I'm not even sure if I want to always call it a journey within. You're talking the shamanic journey, I assume?
Well, also, isn't that the name of your business?
Oh, the sacred journey.
The
I'm
Sacred Journey.
sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Oh, that's okay. To me, a journey means there's not really a destination, but every aspect of it is full of opportunities to learn and things to experience. And none of us are in charge or in control. And it's just always something to remind yourself that this is all about what you are, everything around you and wherever you go. And a shamanic journey, we would do a lower world journey if we wanted to work with animals. And we all have helping spirits that are in animal form. And we all have a power animal or one main animal. You could have a group of them, but there's always one power animal. And they're with you until the day you die. They sometimes leave if you haven't been honoring them or for different reasons, and they can be retrieved by a shaman or a shamanic practitioner. And just to backtrack for a minute, I call myself a shamanic practitioner, but I'm honored when my community calls me a shaman or my teacher or my students. But I was taught that one doesn't call themselves a shaman. It's seen as a sign of ego and insincerity, that if you're a shaman, you don't have to tell anyone. It's obvious and it's evident. So I'm honored to be called one, but I call myself a shamanic practitioner. So we would go into the lower worlds if we wanted to work with our power animal or helping spirit or helping spirits or the elements. We would do a middle, and our ancestors, I don't know if I said that, we'd go to a middle world journey if we wanted to find a lost object, talk to someone who's in a coma, find a lost person, because it's a different reflection or vibration of the world that we live in. So it's a little bit more familiar to us. And in the upper worlds, we'd go to the upper worlds to meet with healing beings, saints, gods and goddesses, go to temples of healing, learn some of the healing arts. It's much more ethereal. So when we do a lower world journey, we actually think of an actual physical entry point into the earth. A hole in a tree, a shallow pool, an animal hole, a cave. When we do a middle world journey, we don't need to do that because we just leave our energy field and expand it. And for an upper world, we think of a way that we could ascend. We could stand on a tree, because remember, it's not our physical bodies, it's our energetic bodies. We could visualize standing on a tree. I put my arms out, there's a big oak tree in the corner of my property, and then I ask the wind to spiral me up. You could imagine taking a sapling, bringing it back and catapulting yourself up into the upper worlds, or ask a bird to come down. And what's so sweet is that there are no limitations to the animals we work with. A hummingbird can take you for a ride on its back. I mean, when we think of that consciously, or a grizzly bear could do a healing on you, a bear that would be dangerous to us, not in non-ordinary reality. So we have lots of options.
That sounds wonderful. No, I know about the bears. We had in our unfoldment circle some years ago, and that one of our protectors was a bear. It was there all the time. And everybody could sense him, feel him there.
Beautiful. I have a wolf that protects me, and a bear protects my home and property. And we actually have a bear that will walk around here in physical reality once in a while, but I have a lot of sculptures and things of bear. And if you look behind me, this is a bear drum.
Oh,
it's a horse drum.
Yeah.
That's buffalo, and I have elk and turtle. And the reason I bring these to your attention, and you can see this has wolf fur on it. This has deer toes on it. The reason I bring that to your attention is people are very surprised when they come here, because they go, well, you're a vegetarian. How come you have things that are made of animal parts? And I explain, when we turn part of an animal into an instrument, we've given it its voice back. The animal can sing again. The animal can speak again. And none of these animals were killed for their hides or their toes.
Right.
Either they died in the most natural way for them or accidentally. The drum makers that I use only make drums from animals that were free and not confined. And it's an obligation to use every part of the animal possible to honor its energy and its spirit. So when I use this drum, and this beater is actually bear fur, I am uniting with the energy of bear and calling its wisdom, and the same with the horse. But I wanted to show you this, you might find fascinating, Lynn. This is a deer toe rattle. It's a different style because it's a shaker, it's not hollow.
Okay. Yeah.
But you can see the beautiful patterning all the way around the beadwork.
Hold it up a little bit. We can see it. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh.
See how the beadwork's exactly the same? But if you look here, you'll see one bead that's blue that would ordinarily be red. That's called the Spirit Bead. The artist did this on purpose to say, only creator or great spirit, this was a Native American artist, only creator or great spirit is perfect. I am human, I am imperfect. So you might see it in a beaded necklace, one thing out of place like that, different colored bead as a reminder of.
Isn't that interesting? I've never noticed that before. I'll watch for that. I have a cow drum.
Okay.
A cow drum.
So
I picked it. I picked it because I like the tone. I like the sound.
That's the right reason for picking it. And it has a voice again. So it's really an honor to be the caretaker for it.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. That's wonderful. Now, in your business, you hold classes or you do readings or all of the above?
I do a little of everything. I have different monthly study groups. I have a shamanism one and a psychic spiritual development one. And I have a spirit detachment one, which is a very advanced class that I hold by invitation only. Then I do occasional group past life regressions, connecting with your spirit guides, working with stones and crystals. But I do readings, I do hypnosis, I do shamanic energy work, some sound healing, energetic cord cutting, if there are some energies that are interfering with your ability to move forward and enjoy life, whether they're from earlier in your life or that you've been carrying for your ancestors. We can cut those, but we're very careful with our wording that we only cut the ones that are considered harmful, the cords of harm. Because some of them, I hate to say, nobody's entitled to have a super easy life. And sometimes the path we're on has challenges because we need them to grow and learn. And it would be a disservice if I were to remove someone's obstacles that were for their highest and greatest good. We use that phrase.
Now, do you ever have anybody come and as a disbeliever?
All the time. All the time. And if they're coming for a hypnosis session and they don't believe in it and they don't want to be here, then I wouldn't even make the appointment because they're wasting their time. Because everyone can be hypnotized if you want to be and if you can focus and follow directions. But if they come as a challenge, like I dare you, then no. I also pay attention to who they are. Like I work with police and fire personnel that they have to be on duty and on call. So I make sure that their feet can touch the ground. They don't recline and put their feet up. They would feel way too out of service and vulnerable. Like I couldn't respond to an emergency. So knowing who's coming and why, that's pretty important. Or a new mom, reminding her that her mother is watching the baby. If there were an emergency, they would be able to reach her or me, and just sort of easing the conscious mind. But sometimes people will come for a reading, and or sometimes I do fundraisers where I'll do palm readings, and somebody will kind of go like, yeah, this is a bunch of bunk. And I'll start pointing things out about their character and some of the things about their past and history. And they'll go, oh my gosh, you can tell that from hands. And then the buddies come and go, oh, wow, because I do them for safe grad parties. So the football
Yeah.
players will come and then they'll, guys, you gotta do this. So disbelievers become a little bit more open-minded about it.
Mhm, mhm.
So that's a good thing.
Yes, 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 yes. I know I've always said I won't give a reading to somebody who doesn't believe. Because then they get to the point where no matter what you say,
Yeah.
they're not going to
Yeah. And
find a
sometimes,
reason not to.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes someone will be holding on to one little thing and say, what was the name of my dog when I was 7 years old?
Yeah,
Sometimes that information comes, but when it's
right.
presented as a demand, like I'm not
Yeah,
going to honor anything
no,
you say until you tell me this, usually my guides and their guides go, no,
forget it. Yeah.
it's really not the time. They're not going to be open to the bigger message.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. Um, how do you work with children?
Oh, happily and joyfully. Um, with hypnosis, we do it through storytelling. And the reason we call it hypnosis is when you're telling a child a very engaging story, the story would be built around whatever they're going through. If it's bedwetting, and of course we get doctor's permission to make sure there's no
Oh, yeah.
medical reason, of course. But if it's bedwetting or low self-esteem, you tell a story, and the character in the story has that child's name, and you have to be a pretty good storyteller. So you really engage them so they have no time to figure out what you're doing. And when you tell a child a very engaging story, you are their world at that point. Everything revolves around your words. Your words become their reality. And you tell them about this wonderful ending to the story and how easily this child was able to change things and things around them got so much better. That went right to their subconscious mind. It's just like watching a cartoon. That becomes a reality. They don't say, well, a cat and a mouse couldn't be friends and sit and have dinner together and wear clothes. It's their reality. So
Right.
with children, that's one way for changing behavior. But sometimes children come with past life memories, and I allow them to talk about it, and I let them choose. In every case, if the parents are in the room or not, they always choose to have the parents in the room. But in case there were some discomfort with a parent being there, I want to give them that option. But I encourage them to tell me about it. And I just say, isn't that amazing that we get lots of different bodies and lots of different families and lives, but our soul inside is always with us, lifetime after lifetime. And sometimes you get to be the dad, sometimes you get to be the mom, sometimes you get to be the sibling, and just making it sound like it's not so strange and so odd. And even the American Journal of Medicine has posted some really wonderful evidence. They can't call it proof, but evidence of
Right.
children having past life memories
Oh,
and being
yes.
able to take the crew to the house where they used to live and name the people in the house.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
remarkable.
Yeah. I know. I know. Yeah. Have you ever had parents fight you on that?
No,
No.
no, because usually it's the parents that contact me. I
Oh,
work with
yeah.
a lot of psychotherapists and their clients, and sometimes the psychotherapist says, before we can continue any further into our work together, I need you to go and have energetic cord cutting, do
Okay.
some regressive work. Um, so I do that a lot. I'm working with a little girl now, and I mentor a lot of people, adults and children, who is so connected to nature. I think she's a little shaman just blossoming, and she's 7.
Oh,
And just letting her know that she can have a healthy and meaningful understanding and relationship with animals and plants and stones and crystals, but that not everybody does and not everybody understands it. So talking about boundaries, but yet letting her gifts blossom.
absolutely. Yeah. I think the worst thing is to squelch something like that in a child. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah.
And it happens all the
Yeah.
time.
Oh, I know. I know. I know of a little girl. Oh, she must have been maybe 8 or 10. And she was seeing spirit and talking to spirit and that. And her parents took her to a psychiatrist. And you just want to go up and smack them.
Yeah, and I tell parents the reason your child is seeing it is they were in their spirit form so much more recently than
Yes,
we were. We've
yes.
gotten way too rational and conscious and linear thinking. And so I do a lot of paranormal investigation. And when a child is involved, I try to make it as matter of fact as possible. Like, yep, there are people that don't have bodies and they kind of live in a different way than we do, but we don't want them to bother you in your house. There's a better place for them to be, and they'll be happier when they're with their family that they used to live with. And then I try to approach it that way.
Well, that's great. That's wonderful. How long have you had your business there?
Oh, I want to say about 30 something years, a
Really?
long time. I've been doing the work longer than I actually called it a business and came up with a name, but quite a while. I think I started doing readings in the early 80s. I was a brunette back then, and you see the color of
Weren't
my
we
hair.
all? Yes, I understand.
You
Yes.
can see it's been a while.
Yeah. So are you in your house or do you have another building?
I'm in my home. I have one level and I have a
Mhm.
beautiful waterfall outside that we can do
Oh,
ceremonies there, and a fire pit and a beautiful cherry tree that we use in shamanic ceremonies.
oh,
So
how
I'm really
wonderful.
blessed I was able to do some renovations and turn this into my sacred space. I
Mm.
mean, everything in the universe is sacred space, but
Right. Yeah, I
my
understand.
sacred
Right. Yeah.
workspace.
Do you drum circles?
I used to. Now they're very occasional only because of lack of time. I
Mm.
just have a pretty full
Yes.
schedule. Yeah, so occasionally, because I love drumming, I do either the
Hmm.
djembe drums or
Yep.
if we're doing journeying or something like that.
Now, has your husband had any experiences?
He will have experiences when we're doing shamanic journeys or when we're doing meditation or activities that um, encourage or invite meeting with guides and stuff. On his own, not so much, but in classes and workshops, he does have very meaningful relationships with spirit and uh, activities and
Hmm.
experiences.
Now, did he know all this before you met him or did you teach him?
Oh, he did not, but we actually met 30 something years ago. He was one of the electricians in my school district. So
Oh,
we were always, hi, how are you? Oh, thank you for putting that new plug in. And then when I retired from teaching and started doing some subbing, our paths crossed again. And then another year and a half after that, our paths crossed again. And then we have been dating ever since. So, and we've been married 3 years and dated for 3 years before that. So it was, Spirit really worked hard to get us together.
yeah, they did.
Yeah, they asked me to teach technology education, and I said I can't do that. I don't know how to use power tools, and I had to build robots and program. And I kept
Oh
saying no,
my
no,
God.
no, I can't. And so I kept denying the job, and they kept calling me, and they were so persistent. I said okay, and I did it at one school for a month, and then later that a year and a half later is when they asked me to do it again at a different school, and that's when we met on my second to the last day there. I
How
was
did you
so
do
out.
that if you didn't know anything about it?
Well, that's a long story. When I did it the first time, it was at my old school, so I still knew the students, and because it was right after I'd retired, I still knew the students and the school and everything. And they let me do it because I said I can only do it if you let me do it as an art teacher. And it was grade 6, 7th, and 8th. And they had the supervisor kind of tutor me. And because it was the very first beginning of school, they weren't using power tools yet. So I was able to incorporate my knowledge of teaching and art, and I had decent classroom management, which is what they were looking for. But then a year and a half later, one of the other middle schools called me and said, you did so well there, we need you here. And that was the robot thing. And they had been through 9 subs or something like that. And I said, okay, because it's a former school of mine again. So I thought, okay. And I had to give a test on the last 2 days I was there, and it was a big, thick test, and they made all the copies for me. They try to make it easy for you. And it was great because the kids were peer teaching. So it's, I love to see kids
Yeah.
kind of blossoming and helping other kids.
Mhm.
But I was short one test because they had to give me a cheat sheet because I didn't know the answers to the test. So they had circled answers. So I wasted one test. So I had to go make another one. And Chris was on a ladder right in front of the door to the copy room. And we have been seeing each other ever since. Now, how much more obvious could that have been? Because we always had a lovely heart connection, but never pursued it.
Gee, the universe is saying, "For crying out loud."
I know. What more do you want? So yeah, so we're very grateful that it worked out that
Oh,
way.
that's wonderful. That's I love it when spirit, they know what they're doing. We just got to get out of the way and let them do it.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, Joyce, this has been wonderful. I could go on and on.
Well, thank you. You made it fun and easy. Thank you so much.
Dance team coach, it says here. You are.
Oh, you're digging way back.
Oh yeah, I want to see what.
Okay. In my last school before I retired, all my years were in West Hartford, a group of girls came to me and they said, Miss St. Germaine, there's no activity that we're interested in. We don't want to do intramural sports, and we're not really looking to do library club or chess club or technology club. I said, well, what do you like to do? We like to dance. And I said, let me see what I can do. Because I love to dance. Do I know anything about it? No.
Yeah,
But I thought, you know what? They know enough to self-guide and self-teach, and I'll be the supervisor for it. That's all they need, is a person to
okay.
be responsible for them.
Yeah.
So we turned it into a dance team, and I had a mom whose daughter was quite an experienced dancer. There are a lot of the girls that had dance experience and some that did not, but just loved to move their bodies. And we got some boys involved, but one of the parents had done choreography and
Oh
costuming.
my gosh.
And so we put on performances. You know, one of them was we had all Egyptian costumes and we did that Michael Jackson did. It was so much fun. But I don't know if it's still in existence because I haven't been in the school in a couple of years now. But it was a lot of fun for all of us. And I'm so grateful to how everybody rallied and made it happen.
One little idea and it just blooms.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Because every child needs a place to belong. And some kids felt like they belonged there.
Mhm. But it was so great that you were there, and instead of saying, well, gee, I'm sorry, it's like, okay, let's do it, and it's kind of like the universe saying, okay, you take the first step, we'll take it from here.
Yeah. And then administration was very supportive too, because as you know, in any kind of business or place or organization, you have to get the support from above, because you need permission and you need some funding and you need you need support. And then the parent community was amazing.
It's fantastic. You've had quite a few experiences. Yeah, I can see two. Okay, there's two TV series here now that you can really go in any direction you want.
But understand, Lynn, that I had the privilege of doing this because I wasn't raising a family. And please understand why I'm saying it this way. I wasn't responsible for others other than my pets, which I always was very responsible for. So I had the luxury and the privilege of saying, I can go away and do a weekend training. I can work late at school, or I can go and do a seminar, or I can teach at night, or I can do these because I wasn't ignoring someone that needed me.
I understand.
It's a
Absolutely.
trade-off,
Oh
but
yeah,
one that I gladly made.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. It's great.
Well, now I have 3 grown daughters and 2 granddaughters, so it was a wonderful
Really
deal.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, are they into this?
A little bit more curiosity and interested and a little supportive. And one of them was able to release her allergies with some hypnosis. So Little by little, I've taught them some meditation and working with singing bowls. So it wasn't something they were always into, but they're very respectful and a little curious. And that's
Now,
so much
these
fun.
are your husband's children,
Yes.
married?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's fantastic. Well, you're spreading it out. You know, you give it to your you know their children and their children's children, and
Yeah.
the word
A
is
lot of
out.
fun.
The word just
As
goes
you
out.
do. So thank you for this wonderful invitation and for
Thank you so
meeting
much. I
everybody.
really appreciated this. Yes, Joyce said you must call her. She said she said she'd be a very good person to interview or to talk to, and I said okay, because I like Joyce and she's got a good head on her shoulders.
And she has a great name.
Joy, yes, yeah, absolutely.
There aren't many of us around, so it's good to
No,
hear another
yeah, it's
one.
kind of an old name, isn't it? Yeah. Oh.
It is
Well, thank you so much, Joyce. I really appreciate
my
this.
pleasure.
And I'll put the information on how to get in touch with you on underneath your, along with your, this recording. And thank you again. It's been a lovely pleasure. I
Thank
just
you.
enjoyed every minute of it.
Thank you. The pleasure
Thank
was
you.
mine.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.